What do you want done with your remains after you die? Story 1. Cremation is not my preference. Instead, shoot me out of a cannon into the ocean when I pass away. Place my entire body into the cannon, then launch me out to sea. Alternatively, I'm interested in cryogenic preservation. Place me in a state of deep freeze, then attempt to revive me in 500 years. Hey, why not? Story 2. I'm donating for science. All the kids have to do is call, they pick me up and slice me up. In the event they don't need my body, I'll be cremated. The local crematorium has a setup where my child can push a button and send me into the oven. We agreed that since she spent a lifetime pushing my buttons, she should get to do it one last time. Story 3. I work at a funeral home, so I think about this a lot and have come to the conclusion that I just want my family and friends to do what feels best for them. I personally believe that when we die, we don't exist anymore, so it won't be about me. The loved ones I leave behind are the ones that will matter. That being said, we once did a funeral where the man was in a closed casket that was finished in unbleached canvas and linen on the outside, and everyone wrote messages to him in permanent marker on it. The next morning, he was cremated in it. It was one of the more touching services I've worked on. A side note, but one of the messages was from Dave Gahan of Depeche Mode. Story 4. I want to be cremated and for my remains to be pressed into pellets, and those pellets loaded up into shotgun shells. I then want my estate to fund a safari for all my surviving friends where they get to go on a boar hunt using those shells. At the end of the safari, there will be a feast and pig roast where my friends will party, remember me fondly, and understand me completely. Story 5. A couple of ideas. 1. Sealed in a vacuum package to preserve freshness, or 2. Left unattended on a hillside where wolves will find my body and feast. I realize these sound like opposites, but they each have their appeal. Story 6. I honestly have no idea. I don't care. Maybe, but yesterday I was reading about what happens when you donate your body to science. I think it was meant to scare me off the idea, but it did the opposite. Story 7. Preferably, throw me in the forest so the animals can eat me, or in the ocean so the fish can eat me, or whatever. Cremation or getting buried seems like such a waste of money. Just go use that money for having fun or something, instead of having me rot in the ground or keeping me in an urn. Story 8. Cremated and scattered or buried someplace hard to get, like a mountaintop or remote backcountry lake. Remote and hard to get to is key here. I don't want my living family to visit this place, and I don't want it to be a place where, when living, we had fond memories together. Story 9. Leave me out in the woods for the wolves to eat me. I will never be able to afford a funeral, burial, cremation, or headstone, so I have instructed my wife to drop my body in the woods, and if it gets found, to never claim it. Story 10. I have already signed papers for my corpse to go to the University of Tennessee Anthropological Research Facility, otherwise known as the Body Farm. Story 11. I kind of want to have one of those military funerals where they shoot the rifles into the sky 3 times. Except, I want to be tossed out of a catapult and shot out of the sky, similar to the Smosh video titled, Every Funeral Ever. Story 12. If there's anything that's not damaged, so that's the liver and kidneys for sure no use to anybody, then donate them to who needs them. Cremate the rest and scatter them at sea or something. I'm somebody of no importance. I don't need a plot of land forever holding my rotting remains. Story 13. I told my son, put me in the back of your pickup now, drop me off at the crematorium. When finished, put me in a paper sack. Head south on the freeway until you see a sign that says, Scenic View. Make sure the wind is not blowing in your face and let me go. Story 14. Build an elaborate and deep tomb with tons of warnings about not to release the evil that is inside. Make future generations think I was important and scary, and then it is just my worthless ashes. Story 15. I either want to be buried with no embalming chemicals floating around in me and just placed in a field with other deceased people before being covered with soil, or to be terramated or composted. At this time, my only hope is to have my body transported 400 kilometers for a green burial. Cremation uses too many fossil fuels, and traditional burial wastes too much space and uses too many chemicals. Story 16. Genuinely, I don't care and I won't care. I will be dead, unable to worry about my remains. However, I do think it would be cool to be in one of those burial pods where trees use you for nutrients. Story 17. In the middle of a rainforest, I would like to be manure for the millions of organisms that grow there. The concept of being alone when I die or after I die has always scared me. So, it will be comforting for me if my dead body serves as food for new life in the most fertile part of the earth. Story 18. There won't be anyone to pay $1,000 to have me cremated, and there certainly won't be anyone to plan and attend a funeral for me. So, realistically, however the hospital or hospice disposes of unclaimed bodies, that will have to do. Story 19. Donated to science and cremated remains sprinkled into the ocean, unless my nieces are feeling creative and want to mix my ashes with some resin. I did this with both my mom, who has a nice layered heart with cutouts from her favorite book. My stepdad is in a skull with blue and silver glitter. He sits on my desk, and it makes me smile. He would have been bewildered by it. Story 20. Apparently, there's some Egyptian research center that turns you into a mummy. I don't know much about it, but I did just learn my significant other wants to be turned into a mummy. And then he wants to sit in my house or one of his kids' houses for 10 years and be a conversation starter at parties. Or we could weekend at Bernie's him around town. I may be rethinking my life decisions. Story 21. 2 things. I'm donating my skin to a museum about historical tattoo body art, covered literally from head to foot, and it would be a loss not to. After that, I'll have my skin body turned into a tree. I love the idea of having a family forest graveyard where each tree represents a past person. Story 22. Did anyone see that post a little while ago where the lady was stopped at customs because she was wearing a metal butt plug with her boyfriend's ashes in it? Though honestly, I want people to do whatever is cheapest. Just dump my body into the sea. I'm not using it anymore. Story 23. Cremate me, and if my husband is buried, dig him up and place my ashes box with him over where his heart would be. If he's cremated, combine our ashes and scatter them together at a predetermined place. Story 24. I'm Catholic and interested in green burial. I can't be composted or undergo aquacremation according to the Catholic Church. So instead, I am going to be unembalmed, placed in a plain, untreated wooden box, and buried with my Bible, rosaries, and chaplets. Maybe some sawdust or wood chips as well. Story 25. One of 3 things. 1. Shot into space, perhaps swallowed by a black hole. 2. Buried alone with a tree planted over me. 3. Mummified and placed into a tomb in a pyramid. Only one seems plausible, and I would be happy with that. Story 26. Terramation involves accelerating your decomposition using hay and other materials to transform you into soil. This soil can then be provided to your family, who may use it as topsoil for a garden, among other things. It is what I desire for the handling of my remains after I pass away. Story 27. Cremate me and mix the ashes with a kilogram of raw Colombian cocaine. Everyone who dares to attend the funeral must inhale me into their lungs, one line after the next. If too few show up, they'll pass away with me, like the servants of the pharaohs. If enough people attend, they'll have an amazing party and probably forget I'm gone. Mission accomplished. If nobody shows up, I take all the goodies with me to the afterlife for all my afterlife friends. It's a fail-proof plan. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Probably. Story 28. I have kind of an unreasonable request of the people I meet after I die. I want to be cremated, but after I die, I'd hate to be left stuck up on someone's dusty shelf. I'd ask for vials of my ashes to be distributed to the guests, and they may then spread those ashes at any point where my connection with them shows strongest. Call it a bit sappy, but I'm a traveler at heart, so I'd like to go on one last journey with the people I care about. Story 29. I want to be cremated. Ideally, I want some of my ashes scattered in 4 locations. The river of my hometown, the river of the country where I lived, the river of the city I've enjoyed traveling to, and the river of the city where I met the love of my life. That's 4 different countries. I can't even begin to get my head around the logistics. Otherwise, I would like them scattered where my mums were. I remember reading about a Canadian guy biker Bob, who had his ashes put into a bottle and it was thrown into the sea so he could go traveling. However, he kept getting found close to shore. I like the idea of that, but I can appreciate that it would be unsettling for people to find. Story 30. I want to be buried naturally with some tree seeds placed with me, so once my body starts to decompose, it will help the soil enrich and fertilize for the tree seeds to grow. To extend the idea, I'd like to buy a plot of land and donate small plots of it for others who wish to do the same, forming a cemetery of trees and making it a protected sanctuary for said trees so they cannot be cut down. We could also allow small plaques placed onto the tree for your traditional name, date of birth, date of death. I don't want it to be a business, but a natural burial site as well as a protected flora sanctuary away from corporations looking to cut down more trees. Story 31. Donate it to a university or science. Use it as a cadaver, practice suturing. I don't care about my body, but at the end of it, burn it and throw the ashes into a mold for an artificial reef and sink it in the ocean. I've had so much seafood in my life, this is the least I can do in return. Story 32. This girl Gina embarrassed me by pulling down my pants during 6th grade gym in front of all the boys. I would like my body to be used to frame her for murder. In the worst case scenario, if it doesn't work and she escapes any consequences, Netflix could still produce a true crime series about it. That way, the whole world would find out that Gina is mean for pulling down gym shorts.